Okay, so good afternoon to our Inspire Elsies radio listeners. Um, Today we have a special guest. Her name is Caroline Peters. She works for the Callas Foundation. The Callas Foundation is a vital organization on the Cape Flats, and we are speaking to the founder slash director, Caroline Peters. So welcome to Inspire Elsies radio, Caroline Peters.
Hi, thank you for having me, Ilhaam.
Mm. So if you can just give us some history about the foundation itself and when it started.
So Callas Foundation was founded in 2018. You know, that was the same year when the violence on the Cape Flats were out of control, the year when Jessie Hess and Uyeneni were murdered. The femicides were out of control. And, you know, for some, so I have been working in this space for more than 3 decades, and I've been working in other organizations. At Sarki Batman, 18 years. At Elita Labantu, I worked at 1,000 women. And that just made me want to ensure that there's a community base. So we started as a community to respond to the violence on the Cape Flats. And you know, when violence is out of control, then gender-based violence is out of control. And we see that intersection between any violence, and it spills over into the home, and then gender-based violence is out of control. And so Callas Foundation was established in 2018, the year when there was extreme violence on the Cape Flats.
So, you deal with a many number of issues within on the Cape Flats. Let us keep it on the Cape Flats.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
what are some of the issues? Like, say we want to contact you, who can contact you,
Okay.
and how do you assist them?
So our key initiatives, Ilhaam, is access to justice. We do court support. We do court accompaniment. We do so any issue or matters around gender-based violence. We assist families, like with the matter we're going to discuss later. We assist families in accompanying them to court. We oppose the bail, whether it is in a femicide matter or sexual assault or a rape matter. In gender-based violence, when there was extreme violence, we would help the families and public with petitions, drafting of petitions. We would petition the court. We also serve as part of advocacy groups in changing legislation and laws around. So that is our access to justice program. Then we have psychosocial support. We do one-on-one therapy sessions for survivors of gender-based violence. And I want to say we support women and men and children.
Mm.
And then we have a women's group support group. We have a men's support group. We have a boys group. At this stage, we do, so that is our psychosocial department, our community outreach program. We run a kitchen from Mondays to Thursdays. We serve 750 meals daily. We reach out whether we have requests from churches or mosques, whether it is whatever engagement or thing there is. So like tomorrow, we're going to KC, to Kenilworth Center, to do its mental health and how does mental health intersect with gender-based violence. So we have a table there and set up, and we do outreach. We train gender-based violence ambassadors and first responders. And then, yes, and then one of the other programs, we advocate for non-custodial measures for women in conflict with the law. So that's in a nutshell the programs that we run, Ilhaam.
Mm. So let us get into the topic of that is a very local topic to Elsies River, the Hermalise Wenn case. Tell us a bit about your involvement with that, and you were at the court in this week.
Yes, we were. Yes,
So if
we
you can
were.
tell us
And
a bit
last week.
background about the case
Yes.
and for what is happening now with the case so that people can know in Elsies River and in the surrounding areas.
Okay. So, Ilhaam, just to say, our first interaction with Hermalise was actually before she passed away.
Oh.
We collect soup from where she used to work in a kitchen at a depot where they make soup and distribute soup from. She worked, and so a workplace. We've met her at a workplace, etc. So when the matter happened, her employer contacted us to ask for assistance, for counseling, especially for the workplace, to support them through that. And that is how we got involved in the matter, because it's not someone that we didn't know at all. It was through an employer and through a work that we've met her before. And so we were then made aware of the matter. This happened over the weekend, but the Monday morning, first thing, the employer contacted us to ask for our assistance and how we can support the matter in court, as well as for therapy sessions for some of her friends and family and whoever needed support. And of course, we agreed to that. We then went to court on his first appearance at Clinton Moses, who's the alleged perpetrator. Remember, he has been charged, but he hasn't been found guilty. That's why I call him the alleged perpetrator. He's Clinton Moses, and we were there from his first appearance. So he appeared the first time, and then the matter was postponed to gather more information for bail information. It was postponed to a week later, which was now in this week. And then at the bail hearing, or where the next appearance was supposed to be to gather information for bail, the alleged perpetrator, Clinton Moses, then abandoned the bail application. So I want to say, on one hand, it is a good thing, but I'm also, because I know more about the law, I'm always wary when the bail application is abandoned, because this means even in a year or two from now, he can bring a bail application. Once you've brought a bail application and it's been denied, you can't have another bail application. But and bail is denied, you can't bring it again. But once you abandon bail application, it means that in a year or two from now, you can bring another bail application. Yeah. So he abandoned the bail application at the hearing on Tuesday. And so he's back. But remember, he's a parolee. He is out on parole. So the magistrate did mention that his parole has been revoked.
What is he on parole for, Caroline?
So, Ilhaam, I am not sure. I can't answer that. I did not. In fact, I haven't asked what that was for. But I know that he spent a few years imprisoned, and that he is out on parole for another matter.
And here's I just want to know a little bit about the history of their relationship, because you
Yes.
were in contact with him. Was it a violent
Yes.
history? Was it an
Yes.
aggressive history? So there are
There
is evidence of
there's
him
a
being
history.
aggressive.
That's correct, Ilham. There's evidence. I mean, the family members all say that there's evidence that even while she was pregnant, remember that she has two children,
Mm,
two boys, one is 16 and one is 3. Now,
yeah.
the 3-year-old is his son. And
Mm-hmm.
they say even 4 years ago, when she was pregnant with that boy, there was abuse happening at the time. So her family are well aware that the relationship has been a very violent one, a very abusive one.
And she apparently didn't want anything to do with him.
That's
Um,
correct.
so she kind of broke all ties with him, and he kind of wanted to force his way back into her life.
Yes. So can
Because
I just say
according to reports, she had a restraining order, or in the process
that's a
of
protection order now?
Okay.
She had an interim protection order granted, which was supposed to be made final now in November. So
Mm.
remember, she had an interim protection order granted in August, which meant that she had an interim order protection order in place. And this is what I want to say. Often women die with that piece of paper in their hand, not
Mm.
literally, but I mean, she did what she was supposed to. She cried out for help. She went to the court for help. She put measures in place. However, I mean, some of the family even say that they're not sure why she went back 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks before he murdered her, she went back. It seemed like they reconciled 2 weeks before he murdered her again. But according to some family members, there might have been fear She might have feared him, and that's why she reconciled with him. But 2 weeks before that, but what I want to say is that on the 6th or 7th of November, that order was supposed to be made final. And he knew they were going to court on the 6th or 7th of November.
And where does he also come from, Elsies River?
Yes, he does. Yes, he
So
does.
they're
And
both
his family.
residents of Elsies
Yes.
River.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I want to quickly sidetrack. We're going to talk more about this case, but for women out there that know that they are involved with a violent man and they do the
Mm.
process of getting protection orders or like taking measures to put in place to kind of separate their
Yes.
lives from this violent person, what advice can you give women? Practical advice, because now look what happened to her. She was in the process of getting protection order and she still got murdered. So what can we
Yes.
do to protect ourselves as women from violent men in our communities?
And I want to say, often we think that, and I'm sure that he reassured her. He said to her, but I want to say to women, if you're living in fear and if you're being hurt physically, emotionally, or any otherwise, please know this: you are not to blame. You did not cause the violence, and you do not deserve it.
Mm.
Violence grows or thrives in silence and isolation. We know that perpetrators will isolate you. They will tell you a whole lot of things that nobody cares, nobody loves you, people are not interested in you. And it starts making you question your worth, your strength, and even your sanity. But I want you to hear this clearly. You are not alone. There are women who have walked this road, and there are hands and hearts ready to help you walk towards your safety. Leaving isn't easy. We know that. We know that women often leave and they go back and they leave and they go back. And Ilhaam, there's evidence to back this up that women stay away the seventh time. I mean, some women, it takes them 7 times to leave and come back. I know it's not easy. You may feel trapped by your fear, like she did, by finances or love, you know this man display love bomb you. We call it love bombing. They shower you with love and then they turn around. Especially we see this with intimate partner violence. You may be told that you'll never survive without them, but you can and you will. Your life has value far beyond the pain you are enduring. So I want to encourage women, if you're not ready to leave it, just start by telling someone that you trust. Just start telling someone that to that you can reach out to, that you trust. Just tell one person. Document what is happening. Keep
Hmm.
your import, document what is happening, because often I say to women, we come to court and we just say, he's beating me. The magistrate can't go on that, nothing can be granted. But please start documenting, because we forget. We want to forget these things. Our mind protects us and we forget this thing. But start documenting. Yeah. Keep your important papers safe. Find out where's your nearest shelter or organization that you will reach out to. And remember that the police and the courts have a duty to protect you. Yes, the police cannot be there 24 hours. Yes, organizations are not 24 hours, but make a safety plan, have a safety plan in place. When you are ready, reach out. There are people who will stand beside you, not to judge you, but to journey with you. You are not weak for staying. You are not foolish for loving. You are not invisible, but you deserve to live, to breathe freely, to laugh again, to be loved without fear. I'm even emotional now. There
Hmm.
is life after the violence. I want to say there is hope. And your story and your courage might one day be the reason another woman finds a voice too.
Caroline, um, I want to talk about the interim protection order that she had.
Protection order, yes.
So it
Yes.
was like she was still protected until the
Yes.
permanent one would be put in place. That's kind of the proceedings. Am I
That's
correct?
right. Yes,
So why
yes,
didn't she call the
yes.
police?
Apparently, the police was called. Alarm police were called. This is neighbors, people on the scene. I mean, the police were called. The police never came.
Oh, oh, I didn't know that. So
Yes.
now, okay,
Yes.
then let
Police
us get
were
into the
called,
systematic
actually.
challenges because that's one of my
Yes.
questions.
Yes, because that is system challenges.
That
Yes.
is a system
Challenges
challenges.
within
So
system.
what
Yes.
systematic challenges, from your point of view, because you deal specifically with these GBV cases and social justice cases, um,
No.
what systematic challenges do we need to look into, um, to during court proceedings, in between protection orders, what can we do or what needs to be worked on in the broader advocacy and reforms within the system? Because if she did
So
call the police, Caroline, and they didn't come, then whose fault is it then?
yes, yes. So I'm saying exactly, Ilham, last night before 5, I get the call. They're trying to get Bellville police to come out. This is Bellville police station. The woman is locked inside. She has a protection order. She asked the police to accompany her to her house. I'm just going to want to give you an example to get clothes for her and the children. The police just drops her there. And while she's busy packing up, the perpetrator comes and she locks herself in the house and he's trying to get get to her inside the house. And this is also a violent relationship. And she's in the house trying to call the police and no one is coming. Her sister phones me frantically. Her sister can't get there, you know. But this woman, do you know how long it took us to get through to Belleville to say to them, please, the police could have, the police should have waited there. They could have waited there for about 30 minutes and just for her to get safely out of the house and get away from that house, you know? So this is the system failures. So I want to say that, yes, she phoned the police, but because the stab wounds was so bad, the family picked her up and they took her to the hospital, to the nearest day hospital. But I want to say, if we look at the justice and the legal systems, often courts re-victimize survivors through insensitive questionings and long delays. Women give up because there's such long delays. Protection orders are issued but not enforced. Police officers lack trauma sensitivity training and sometimes even discourage women from opening cases. I know police would say to you, no, because remember, you are allowed to lay a charge of assault and go for a protection order because this is a criminal thing and there's a civil matter. So remember, the protection order only becomes a criminal matter once they violated the order. So with a civil matter, you can, and women show up at the police station wanting to lay charges. They are then sent to go and take a protection order out. But there can be two matters happening at the same time, and we see how bail is granted too easily in femicide and domestic violence cases. So systemic changes we need specialized gender-based violence courts. We need accountability mechanisms, for police who must handle GBV cases. We need integrated digital tracking systems. So for protection orders and repeat offenders, and we see that, we need mandatory ongoing training in trauma-informed and survivor-centered approaches. For the police, for the justice system, for all the stakeholders that is involved, we need the health department. Survivors often, we know there's the Tutuzela care centers. How many people know that you don't have to go to a police station? You go straight to a Tutuzela care center when there's gender-based violence. These things are not advertised. Clinics and hospitals don't always identify abuse and offer referral for the clients, systemic changes is needed, Ilham. Just GBV screening as part of a routine. If we speak about the health department so part of their routine healthcare, they must be, the one-stop centers like Tutuzela centers must be expanded and better resourced. It must be at every hospital. Now we find there's not at every hospital. There must be public funded psychosocial support. We know, we offer free psychosocial support, but we cannot keep up with the amount of people that needs it. No? And then the integration of GBV responses into primary health and community based services. Okay.
Okay, Caroline, so that is a lot of work. Who
It's
is
a
it?
lot of work. And
It
I
is a lot
know
of
this
work.
sounds,
Like,
yes, and it is long term, Ilham. It is long
exactly.
term. That is long term. But I mean, immediately we can have resources at our Tutuzela care centers. We need better, we need more, even like the local radio stations like yours, resource to come to be able to broadcast all these things, educate. I mean, that is why Inspire Elsies Radio exists, to educate as well. I'm sure that's one of your pillars. So
Yeah.
how do we use Inspire Elsies Radio there in Elsies? We need to work differently. It's like we need to do things differently to understand how do we combat gender-based violence. It's going to take a whole of society approach.
No, and it's something that we definitely need to work on from all levels. Um,
Yes,
okay, so I just want to quickly talk about who is accountable for these things because there is budgets for this, there is public
yes.
and private funds, there is people that are responsible for these things. So who do we look to? Who are the leaders in this sector so that we can know how to change things from the top down?
So the South African government, they are the primary duty bearer. The constitutional accountability, the state has the ultimate responsibility to protect the right to life, to dignity, equality, and freedom from violence. That's sections 9, 10, and 12 of the Constitution. When women die at the hands of men that they sought protection from, it is a state failure, a violation of both the Constitution and international obligations under CEDAW and the Maputo Protocol. These are legislation that we sign as a country. We have failed. We have failed our women who die from femicide. So specific accountability lies with the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. That's for implementation and enforcement of the Domestic Violence Act, the Sexual Offences Bill, and the related GBV legislation. SAPS. They must ensure that protection orders are served, cases are investigated promptly, and survivors are treated right, with dignity. Then there's the NPA. They need to ensure that perpetrators are prosecuted with urgency. The Department of Social Justice, they must have access to shelters, psychosocial services, and financial support for survivors and children. Then the Department of Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities, they must lead and coordinate the NSP. We all speak about the National Strategic Plan on GBVF, a role that we often fail to fully operationalize that. And then, of course, the Treasury, they must ensure gender responsive budgets and sustainable funding for GBV services. And then when any of these fails, whether through neglect, underfunding, or bureaucracy, they become complicit in the continued harm and deaths of women.
I agree. Caroline, has there ever been a case where citizens of a country take the state to court because they're not doing what they're supposed to do?
Yes,
Like, for
Ilham, we
example,
have
like
had
can
that.
South Africans stand together and take the state to court because they're not protecting women and it's in the constitution because like it's going
Yes,
on.
we can.
Has it happened before, like in your knowledge?
We can, and I know that we've had marches. We've marched. I mean, I've been doing this work for 30 odd years, and I'm so over the marching. I'm now 61. I was much younger when I started, and we didn't, I didn't it didn't matter marching for. But I've always say I have marched every march, and we have petitioned. We have had dialogues. We have had, I mean, this national dialogue that's happening. There's so much happening, but we don't see the action. We don't see the changes. We want to see action and changes, and we want to see tangible changes,
Hmm.
to legislation. We want to see the difference on the ground, and that is not what we're seeing, Ilham.
So if we as women, for example, we all stand together, because I know recently women's legal council took their case to court where they wanted Muslim women's rights to be seen and Muslim marriages to
The
be seen, and
Women's
they won.
Legal Center.
And now we
The
won. So
Women's
like
Legal Center.
women in Islam are seen as married in
Yes.
court of law. So
Yes.
then can't we as women in South Africa all stand together, survivors
So
and people that haven't been through domestic violence, but if we can all stand together and tell the courts and tell the courts that the state is failing us as women. And if we all stand together and take them to court, maybe then things will change. Because it's almost like we every time we're marching, but every time you're failing us. So can't we put it
Mm.
through the court system where we are saying that we can't take it anymore and we don't want to accept the leadership that is in power now because we are still dying. You're still murdering us.
Yes,
And this lady had
yes,
a protection order, an interim
yes,
protection order. And she called the police and they didn't come. So
yeah,
like there's so many
yeah.
cases like this and cases where you now saying that the police also kind of chase you away from doing an interdict and doing opening a case. So like can't we as women like do something like that together?
You know, Ilham, I want to tell you there's many of us that are working on different things. So, for instance, there's Caroline Peters versus the Minister of Justice. We're going to the High Court in March.
Mm.
Women's Legal Center is also my legal representative in this matter. So this is when we try to change legislation around naming perpetrators of sexual violence. And this is a big matter that's in front of the court. But this matter has been ongoing for the last 3 years now, 4 years, it's almost 4 years. So it takes a long time to change legislation. It takes many hours. It takes, and I always say, may God give that one day I see that legislation is changed and I have succeeded in that. 4 years ago, I was taken to court by a perpetrator who I named publicly of sexual violence. 4 years later, we now here. And then next year we're gonna, because we're going after to change that legislation, to change, but we must. And you speaking about accountability, how do we call them out and hold them accountable? And you're so right when you say but there's not enough. And I don't want, it's not the will to not want to change it, but it's resources. We're fighting to just keep our doors open of organizations like ours. Do you understand?
Mm.
We are, we are, our budgets, we have budget constraints. So the work needs to happen, but we do not have the resources. So I know that for many organizations, it's the same. We don't have the time and the resources to go after this legislation because it takes diligently working with these type of things. So for this matter with Peters versus the Minister of Justice, there's been a funder that's supporting that work through Women's Legal Center. Yeah.
Yes, we definitely need to look at the ethics of our people and the people that get into these positions of power. Because if you look at the whole Tempisa scandal, also 2 billion
Yes,
rand
yes.
that could
Two
have gone to
billion,
all
two
of
billion.
these organizations that are supposed to protect women. But now you're living
Yes,
in luxury and you're driving Lamborghinis
yes,
everywhere. So we really do need to
yes,
look at the ethical side of things and the people that are getting into power structures. And we need to monitor them. They need to be accountable. And the
yes.
corruption really is so deep, Caroline, that
Very deep.
the
Yes.
words on paper says, oh, you must protect us and oh, you must do this and that, but they don't
Mm,
listen. They don't
mm,
listen and they
mm.
want to do whatever they want to do. So we do
Yes,
really need to do some introspection
yes,
as citizens of South Africa and look at our situation and really make the tough decisions because sitting back and saying, oh, okay, no, it's their problem is might be your
mm,
problem tomorrow. Because
mm.
everybody always
Yes.
says, oh, that will never happen to me till it happens to you.
Until it
Because
happens to you or a
until it
family
happens.
member or someone. Yes. Yeah.
Exactly, Caroline.
Mm.
Caroline, we're coming to the end of our show. We have like a few minutes left. But what advice do you have for women? Because now you telling us, oh, but she did everything she was supposed to do, and
Yes.
she still wasn't protected. So, like, I'm just thinking a step further because if we are doing everything we're supposed to do, and we're still not being protected, then we need to take them
Yeah.
to court. Like us as a
Yes.
collective, us as
Yes. Mm.
women citizens of this country, we need to maybe
Yes.
then show them that we're serious. We don't want to die anymore at the hands of
Mm.
men. We don't
Mm.
want to die at the
Mm.
hands of um people that are on substances because that's also what I wanted to get
Yes.
into because
Yes.
there's a rumor going
Yes.
around that he was also a substance abuser.
Yes. User. Yes. I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like we also
Yes.
need to take it is a very complex situation and it is gonna take a collective it's gonna take a collective to sort this out. We need to all talk to each other and stop fighting amongst each
Yes.
other because that's also the problem on the Cape Flats. Everybody is
Yes.
fighting everybody. And so when
Yes.
it comes time to taking hands, then You just only want to take hands when there's a peace march organized, but the rest of the time, then you just want to be fighting. And like, we need to
yes,
have open dialogues. We need to have proper relationships with each other. We need to have networks. We need to have like
mm,
neighborhood watches that we have
yes,
access to. It is also about access, because some of the times these people that are working at these places, we don't have access to them.
yes,
And so
you're
it's also
right,
about
you're right,
access and education. So we just need
yes,
to, from the grassroots level, we need to get into the schools, we need to get into the churches, we need to get in where the people are congregating and
yes,
where there are a lot of people. And we need to also create an open mind, an open forum. Open-mindedness is so important, because just because I'm Muslim and you Christian or you black and you colored, we are all the same under the Constitution,
yes,
under the law, and under
yes,
God's eyes. So
yes,
stop trying
yes,
to find a division that makes you different from each
mm,
other,
mm,
and start
yes,
finding things that make you similar, so that you can start
common,
working
the
together.
yes,
Exactly, Caroline. So we always want to make divisions like, oh no, she goes to the,
mm,
even within your
mm,
own, within our own religious
religion,
structures, they still, you
yes,
want to have like,
yes,
no, but you
yeah,
apostolic, and no, you are Shia. And like,
yes,
it doesn't matter.
yes,
Can we
yes,
just work
yeah,
together, and so that everybody can
yes.
have a life to live, and we can all have the right to live a long
Free
life,
from violence,
free from violence, and we can,
free
when
from
it's our time to
violence,
go, we can go in our beds and have
yes,
a happy ending, because what we are getting
yes,
is not a happy ending, Caroline. We are
yes,
getting
no, it's not,
we are getting
yes,
exploited, we're getting abused, and we're going in the most violent way as women. And I'm not saying men don't
yes,
suffer at the hands of GBV, but the statistics show that women suffer the most at the hands of men. So like,
yeah.
what advice do you have for men? Because it's also, it is
I
their
wanted,
problem.
I want to say to the men, you know, I know that, and I want to speak. You know, we started a men's group this year as well, Ilham. And I want to say to you, 2 years ago when I visited Paulsmoor prison, I was in the cells, I was in the courtyard. They took us on a tour because I belong to the South African Women Lawyers Association. We were invited to the prison to come and, you know, explore. And some of the women with us were magistrates, etc., etc. And when I got back home, I was sick to my stomach because I also believe that Black men are dehumanized in prison, you know. So, to the men that listen, we need you to understand that this fight is not against you, that it is for all of us. And I understand this now with running men's groups. Gender based violence is not a women's issue, it is a men's accountability issue, a society's moral issue, and it's a humanity issue. Every time a man raises his hands against a woman, he's not showing power. He's revealing his weakness, his fear, and the deep damage that patriarchy has done to all of us. I want you to know we are not asking you to protect women. We are asking you to stop hurting them. We are asking you to unlearn the lies you were taught about masculinity, that
Mm,
dominance equals strength, that silence equals control, and that emotion is weakness. True strength is in restraint, it's in respect, it's in responsibility. True manhood is in how you use your power to heal and not to harm.
mm, mm. That is wise words. I think we need, because that is the root of the problem. Yes, they are
Yes,
victims, and yes, we are survivors, but the root of the problem is the perpetrator. And
yes,
understand, we always focus on the perpetrator, and the survivor kind of falls behind. But it has to be a balance, Caroline, where you have to take accountability, and we have to hear what a woman has
yes,
gone through. Because a lot of the
yes,
times in all abuse cases, everyone is just so um I don't want to use the word fascinated, but they always want to know more about the perpetrator and what is going on with
mm,
him. And whereas then the survivor kind of just fades away. And I feel like we
yes,
need more survivor stories. I don't know if you know
yes,
that Virginia Giuffre, she was one of the women that spoke out in the Jeffrey Epstein case, and she wrote a book
yes,
now recently.
yes,
And
yes,
we need to focus on the survivors, because that is the
mm,
key to prevention. Because if we
yes,
understand
yes,
how she got in that situation, how they exploited her, how they found her vulnerable
yes,
spots, and then that's how they kind of
yes,
dragged her into that
yes,
situation. And
yeah,
she wrote a book, and she did pass away. But we need more survivor stories. And I know it's a very difficult ask.
mm,
But ladies, you
Mm,
need to speak out. If you don't want to speak
mm,
out like
mm,
in front of crowds,
mm.
write a book. But your story is so important so that we can prevent. Because if we
Yes.
understand what the environment is like for this kind of perpetrator to exploit you, we can stop it. We can stop such environments from existing. We can stop them from having access to you. We can stop it. We just need to understand because there's a lot of us that have not been in situations like that, these high risk situations. So if we understand, we can help. So please write a book, write an article. You can self-publish, speak online to community radio stations, TV stations, anyway, but get
Mm,
your story out
mm.
there because
Yes.
the more testimonies we have, the more understanding we have, the more we can prevent these things. Do you have any last words, Caroline Peters
I want
from
to encourage women to
Callas
reach out. Like I
Foundation?
said, I want to say to women that's listening, that is in the situation, reach out. And like I said earlier, if you can't reach out to an organization, just try to speak to someone close to you. But please speak up because many women die and suffer in silence, you know. And I want to say to the women who have survived, who have successfully left violent relationships, please tell your stories like Ilham said. You know, by telling your story, you give another woman permission to tell hers. You know, and so for many years, Ilham, I told my own story. I mean, I come from a story of a gang rape and my friend murdered. And so I used to tell my story all the time, but I know for survivors, it's not easy. It's
Not
difficult.
easy.
And people think even if you've told it for 100 times, and maybe the 101st